Hey everybody, Phil here for AndroidCentral.com, and here it is, the Motorola Backflip, and that's its box. Looks like a box. Let's open it up. I'm not a fan of unboxing, so we're going to take it out of the box, but this is not an actual unboxing. Don't call it that. Really, seriously. Anyway, here's the phone. We'll pop it out. Get rid of that stuff. And here it is. It's the Backflip. We've seen it before in a hands-on from CES, and it is pretty much unchanged. You got the same backwards flipping keyboard thingy. We'll call it a flipper phone. There's a 3.5mm headphone jack, and we'll zoom in a little so you can see it better. On the back, you got the battery, nothing on the bottom bezel. There's the weird little touchpad on the back. We'll take another look at that in a minute. See, as I'm moving my finger on the back of the screen, it's actually moving the cursor. And that's it. Otherwise, the phone's crippled, just like everybody says. No, it's not really crippled. We'll talk about that more in a minute. There's been a lot of consternation about things at&t did to this, but it's not the end of the world. Again, it's got this weird backward flipping screen, and it's strange, but it's not the worst thing about this phone. The worst thing about this phone really is, and you can already see it, it's just friggin' slow. The processor just isn't up to pushing, and this is Android 1.5, so we're not exactly trying to tax this thing with 3D games. Here's a look at the Android market on it. This is one of the places where it's been locked down a little bit by at&t. They're not allowing side loading, so you can only load apps from the Android market, and you know what? That's fine with me. If you're buying this phone, and we've said it before in the post, if you're buying this phone, you're buying it for Motoblur and for the weird keyboard flip screen thingy. You're not buying it to hack into it and worry about sideloading apps all that much. Let's dig into the settings so we can just take a look and see exactly what we have. And see, again, the screen, if you've ever used a Snapdragon phone, obviously anything's going to feel slower, but this thing is just lagging. I almost feel sorry for anybody who buys it and gets it home and opens it up, and this is their first experience with Android, because it's just not good. It's so slow. Otherwise, the hardware is pretty well put together. Here we go. You can see we are, in fact, dealing with Android 1.5, which, you know what, so what? That's what Motoblur runs on. We're all going to have to get used to that until they update it. And it's going to take a little time, and I'm sure they will. It's just, we're waiting on it. But see, the screen is just, it's painful to try to scroll through lists, even just on the menu on the home screen you saw there. Here we are waiting just to just to manage the apps. That shouldn't take more than 2 seconds to open, and I gave up on it already. So let's go back to the home screen. There's Motoblur. We've all seen that. Here's your app drawer again. None of that 3D flipping effect that we see like on the Nexus 1 or coming up in the Droid update. And you've got all your usual apps. at&t's thrown some of its usual bloatware on there. You know what? Again, that's up to at&t to do, and they're going to do it, and it's not the end of the world. You can't get rid of it. That's just the way it works. So be it. But see, that scrolling is just, it's painful. It's painful. Let's take a look at the browser and see what we get just by default here. The other giant point that has everybody up in arms is the fact that at&t got rid of Google search and went with Yahoo. And there you see it. You load right up to the Yahoo search page. Well, you know what? Again, so what? A lot of people use Yahoo. So let's just not pretend that they don't. Here's the keyboard. The keyboard's all right. There's not much travel in the keys. There's enough to get the job done, but I'd prefer a little more clickiness to it. You do have some interesting buttons here. You do have the 5-megapixel camera sitting right there, and flash. You've got the at&t little internet button. You've got a dedicated search button that brings up the search bar. That's kind of cool. You've got a little email button that'll take you straight to all your messaging. Home button, so that's nice touch. at&t has always done pretty well with that on keyboards as far as customizations go. Here's another look at the back. There's the little trackpad there. I'm not sure how useful it's going to be. You can play with it, you can not play with it, whatever. There's the battery cover. I'm not even going to bother opening that up. That's where the micro SD card is as well. You got volume buttons and the USB port and a dedicated camera button. There's your 3.5mm headphone jack and the power button again. Nothing on the bottom. That's it. It's a decent phone and decent hardware, but the processor's just not up to pushing it. You do, however, have 5 home screens, and that's a nice little trade, I guess. You've got a number of widgets by default, some more news widgets in addition to all the usual Motoblur stuff. There's a clock, there's weather, so it's an interesting little phone, and we'll have a whole review coming up soon. See you, everybody.